I do think that somehow you include it with all the stuff you're doing. I think what you're currently doing with these online concerts is so cool. And I imagine that there's been people that have done it before, but the fact that you're progressing that kind of thing, what's that like? What's it like to create an online concert? And then what's the feeling like? Are you getting some of those same kind of vibes and that same type of sense of community when you're trying to do that?
Because I think the human pyramid equivalent, one close example is like pulling off a symphony or a concert performance like you're doing.
Josh, interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, Justin, to the question, so the online concerts, we're just starting this. And so our first one's in November, next one's in December. You know, if you actually let me share my screen, I can give you kind of a quick snapshot of what we're doing. So Justin, it's been an interesting thing. It's what I'm finding is us making music in a virtual setting like this is definitely not replaced the in-person that Josh just referenced, being like Josh, you said maybe the equivalent of the Castellers. It's not replaced it. It's definitely not the same, and it's not something that you really can compare because they just feel totally different. But what we're finding is it's like a new art form has been created, like a new medium has been created through these online concerts. And it's interesting, you know, the whole pandemic, I'm stealing this from wherever I heard it, The Economist or somewhere, which is really influential on me. The Economist is a quick shout out to that magazine, helps me kind of understand the world a little bit more. I like the perspective, like Europe's doing this, Asia's doing this, US doing this, that America, this worked, this didn't, in a fairly neutral tone.
Yeah.
But the idea that with not much political spin, which I like, and this idea that the pandemic, a silver lining is it made like 5 years of innovations happen in 3 months. And I'm witnessing that right now. So we had 50 musicians that I'll just show you in a quick second that basically
by the way to share.
Great, thanks. So they never recorded. They were overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed. I've never created an online concert. I've never edited stuff. This is literally not what I was trained for, right? And so but as you all know, like the great artists, which I'm not for a second comparing myself to, but if you look at the Miles Davises, the John Coltrane's, those kind of people, Picasso's, they were always reinventing themselves. And I heard a great quote, Picasso, when they said, "What's your favorite period?" Because they break down this thing to 14 distinct periods in Picasso's life. "What's your favorite period, Picasso?" He said, "My favorite period is the next one."
Yeah.
And so like, I think to this, and I'm not for a moment comparing myself to any of them, but so I think this has forced us to take maybe 5 years or 10 years of innovation and do it in a couple months by force. And so it's been scary. It's been stressful. It's been hard to do this. But what I'm finding is people are kind of rising to the occasion, and it's creating a new means of connection, a new artistic form, a new way to present a concert. It's not better or worse or replacing the live concert, but it's like creating it's a new artistic medium. And I'll show you, this is something we had just put together. So this is a piece normally I would conduct in person. With 50 people in a room saying, stop, 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 fix that tuning. But we had to do this fully online, fully virtual format. Quite stressful, quite hard for everybody because everything was new. But people were really excited. We just finished our final edit. I'll just show you just a little snippet so you'll see kind of what we got. And so this is really that new medium that I was talking about of presenting music.
It's amazing.
that just gives you a little.
That's amazing, man.
That was so good.
I appreciate that, guys. And by the way, full disclosure, the guy who actually edited that, brilliant musician and so much more, Grant Bramham, was the guy who actually did the edits. And so that's a little snapshot.
Something like that. How do you even go about doing that? Is it all separately recorded? Like, how did that happen?
There were more than 75 tracks he was looking at. And
yeah, so we thought we were impressive with this whole Zoom thing. That's next level. And you were in 2 places at once. You were both playing the clarinet and conducting, right?
Yeah,
I've learned some tricks about teleporting, but I wasn't going to get into them. This podcast wasn't on
that. Do you have another one where you play all the instruments?
No, I don't do bassoon. Sorry.
Yeah, but you select the music for that, because actually, also the music of it is so perfect. Actually, it's like really positive, but it kind of reminds me of, I guess, marching, with like a parade marching band type song.
Good ear. Yeah, that's indeed a march. Usually a march is in 2. Dumba 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Dumba 1, 2, da dee da dee. Justin, good ear. You'd be
okay, so now here's another question. You ready? The conductor, totally not needed on that, is it? Is that all just for show? Is that all for you? Are you actually conducting anybody?
I just left. You know, Justin,
how did you conduct every one of those people in a separate thing?
Okay, so my whole summer was spent working with people across the country, and also just thinking as to like, how do we conduct online, right? With the single biggest challenge of latency, right? Even in this, like, we're not exactly at the same time, I'm sure, because of electronic delay, and it's little amounts, but that kills a music group, because a music group, it has to be, and the more people you have, the more the ensemble cohesiveness becomes a challenge. So like the big elephant in the room was latency, right? Was how do you deal with this? So Justin, when Josh, our workaround was, I made conducting videos, conducting the music, so everything was synced up. Then I would stream those conducting videos over Zoom. The musicians are playing, they're on mute, but they're hearing it and they're seeing the conductor. And then weekly they're submitting recordings through another app that I'm listening to and giving them feedback, like, you know, be a little shorter here, work on the phrasing here, more air support here. And so it's been really reinventing like a new language to teach music.
That's crazy. So let me see if I got this right. You do multiple different iterations where you're actually conducting the entire class. They're recording locally on their own computers. And then you go through it and you listen to each one of the band members, give them feedback, and then you do it again the next week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, but you do it the next rehearsal or 2 rehearsals from then. And the only change is we're not recording them at that moment during the rehearsal.
Okay.
They go record later that night and they have an assignment. Record this piece, this movement, this chunk, submit it by that night. Boom, they put it in. I give them comments. And then through my comments, I know that, well, 60% of the band struggle with this aspect, so I'm going to address that next rehearsal.
Wow.
70% struggle with this, so I'm going to address that next rehearsal. Folks, let's do these 8 measures really slowly. Think about finger clarity and think about zeka, deka, 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 ready, go. Second, and so you pick specific things to address. So Justin, it's interesting. It's like what we used to do in real time, in a room where I heard your sound or Josh's sound in a real room and go, stop. Can you be shorter there and can be a little softer because you're the accompaniment? Now we're doing, but it's like at maybe a 3-day interval where I address it in 3 days and they're recording that day and I address that another 3 days later. So you're still addressing all of the things that you hear, addressing it. And this was the coolest thing. One last thing on this. Some musicians are saying that this new way of recording holds them accountable like never before. So this is like a dream.
Yeah, that's interesting because you can totally single them out, whereas before your attention can't be everywhere at once. Oh, that's fascinating.
And it's like, it makes me laugh because like the negatives of social media, right? Like maybe self-absorption, being, some people say narcissistic, that kind of stuff, right? It's like, it's a weird thing, but you can kind of turn that into a positive and say, okay, you're going to be on a screen being heard, blasted over the internet, not in a scary way, but, and people want to look good and they want to sound good. And so it's this really like, we just flipped things, and you suddenly turn social media negatives into like, no, like I want to look good and sound good. I'm on the recording. So you're really going to get your part like, poof, because you want to make it.
Yeah. Talk about like a pro-social human nature hacking. That's good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Super.
I mean, I didn't make that up, but it was an observation as we're going through this, that, wow, we kind of flipped that thing that was a negative, just got flipped the other way.
How about the distribution cycle? How are you going to do that? Is it a planned time where you're going to release this to the public at one time, or what are you thinking about?
November 14th, folks, 7:30 p.m. YouTube premiere.
YouTube,
cool.
YouTube Live. You'll play the video. People could put chats and stuff like that.
.santarosa.edu. Justin, you actually helped me with some. We had talked about this. Do we present it as a live concert? What do we do? And in the end, we decided with a very limited production team, which you're pretty much looking at it, plus the brilliant guy who's editing those videos, Grants. It's pretty much two of us. Was pre-recorded concert, but make it feel like a live concert. So there will be little speaking bits, little mini interviews, asking a student what was the hardest thing about recording this piece, and put colorful little like blurbs in there, and then boom, into a performance. And the whole concert has an overarching theme called Bright Lights, Starry Nights.
Love it. Well, that's
cool.
been amazing. I'd love to do this again. We can maybe talk about the next part about semiotics and the Gilbreths maybe in the future. But this was great. Thanks for joining us, man. What an awesome time. And look forward to seeing the concert.
Justin, thanks for having me. And you and Josh, great to see you guys, and very inspiring to hear what your guys' thoughts are kind of on where we are and where we're headed. It's a fun journey. It's very interesting.
Likewise. Look forward to the next conversation. It's so good getting your perspective.
You guys.
Yeah. All right, guys.